At the end of the Second World War, the Cold War had begun. The world lay divided between two great superpowers, the United States and the Soviet Union. It would not be a conventional war, with the two sides never directly fighting. Instead, it would be an ideological battle between communism and capitalism, the East versus the West, and the resulting struggle for ideological influence and power. Both sides would stockpile nuclear weapons, with questions over how to use, control, and eliminate them becoming central to the conflict. From Stalin to Reagan, from the arms race to the Cuban Missile Crisis, from the Berlin Wall to Vietnam and Korea, this is the story of the Cold War.
Assalamualaikum, my name is MOHAMAD SHAH bin ZAIDI and metric number 2022481344. So firstly, it's about the history of North Korea and South Korea. The Cold War was an ongoing political rivalry between South Korea and North Korea and their respective allies that developed after World War II. The enmity between these two superpowers was first mentioned by George Orwell in an article published in 1945. North Korea invaded South Korea on June 25, 1950, and this invasion sparked the Korean Cold War. This Cold War had controlled the immediate reaction of the leaders of the United States, which the leaders of the country immediately concluded that the Soviet Premier Joseph Stalin had ordered the invasion as the first step in his plan to conquer the world, and if at that time the invention of North Korea was not challenged, the world will surely plunge into another world war. In the 1930s, the American leader at the time, Truman, was prevented from realizing that the origins of this conflict began at least at the beginning of World War II, at which time Korea was a Japanese colony, and the liberation in August 1945 brought to division and predictable war because the United States and the Soviet Union would not allow the Korean people to determine their own future. As a result of the end of the Cold War, North Korea lost the support of the Soviet Union and immediately plunged into a prolonged economic crisis after the death of leader Kim Il-sung in 1994. There were expectations that the North Korea government could fall and the peninsula would be reunited. For the next part is about scenario and conflict of North Korea develop a nuclear weapons. The development of nuclear weapons by North Korea has created a complex and potentially dangerous scenario, with various conflict and tension arising from these developments. The conflict has raised tensions with South Korea and the United States. These countries have worked together to put pressure on North Korea to abandon its nuclear weapons program, but North Korea has refused to do so. This has led to an increase in military attitudes and threats, potentially leading to armed conflict. The second one is increased regional instability. The development of nuclear weapons by North Korea has led to increased instability in the region. Japan and other neighboring countries are concerned about the potential threats posed by North Korea nuclear weapons and have increased their military capabilities as a result. This has led to a potential arms race in the region, with other countries to seeking develop their own nuclear weapon in response. And the third one is international sanction. The international community has imposed sanction of North Korea in an effort to pressure the country to abandon its nuclear weapons program. However, these sanctions also have a negative impact on North Korean economy, leading to a potential humanitarian crisis and great suffering for the North Korean people.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh to Miss Jamhira. My name is MOHAMAD NURAIDIL FIDZMAN bin MOHTAR. My student ID 2022678412 from AM2284H. So next conflict why North Korea and South Korea have an issue is because US interference on conflict between North Korea and South Korea. So the United States, US has been involved in this conflict between North Korea and South Korea since the Korean War, which lasted from 1950 to 1953. Since then, the US has maintained a strong military presence in South Korea and has been involved in effort to address the security challenge posed by North Korea. In recent years, the US has taken a more active role in diplomatic effort to resolve the conflict on the Korean Peninsula. This includes President Donald Trump's historic meeting with North Korean leader Kim Jong-un in 2018, which marked the first time a sitting US president had met with a North Korean leader. However, there are concerns that US interference in the conflict could exacerbate tension and make it more difficult to reach a peaceful resolution. Some experts argue that the US insisted on maintaining a strong military presence in South Korea, for example, by supplying some new advanced military assets and US Army base camp, which is Camp Humphreys, and its confrontational rhetoric towards North Korea could be seen as a threat by the North Korean government, making it less likely to engage in meaningful dialogue and negotiations. The third one is a political ideology. Political ideology is one of the factors that contribute to conflict between North Korea and South Korea. The two Koreas have a different political system and ideology, with North Korea being a communist state and South Korea being a democratic state. North Korea political ideology is based on the Juche ideology, which emphasizes self-reliance and independence from foreign influence. The country is ruled by Workers' Party of Korea, which control all aspects of the country in terms of political, economic, and social life. In contrast, South Korea political ideology is based on democracy, capitalism, and free market principles. The country has a multi-party system and a constitution that guarantees basic rights and freedoms. This difference in political ideology have contributed to tension and conflict between the two Koreas. North Korea has long been a critical of South Korea political system and has accused that the country of being a puppet of the United States, which is US. South Korea, on the other hand, has criticized North Korea's human rights records and lack of political freedoms.
Hi, Assalamualaikum. My name is NABILAH binti NORESHAM and my student ID is 2022876044. And I will be explaining about the theory that can be related. Neorealism is one of the theory that can be applied. So what is neorealism? Neorealism is one in international relation theory that emphasizes the importance of power politics in international relation. It was started after the world experienced a world war in Italy. This neorealism theory is different from the old theory because this neorealism is self-centered in the politics of great power with oligopoly market. It is called realism because it emphasizes reality. The goal was to depict the subject truthfully rather than romantically, and also was an anti-romantic movement in this sense. Realism aimed to depict life as it was lived by ordinary people, often in mundane setting. This is related to the World War because neorealism states that it is selfish and in politics of great powers and depicts life as it was lived by ordinary people. Realism also is any international relation theory that considers the state as a unit of analysis and assume that it defends in its national interest and seeks to maximize its power.
Assalamualaikum. My name is ATHIRAH binti AMIN. My metric number is 2022864804, and I'm going to talk about the impact to domestic and global due to the war between North Korean and South Korean. Significant effects on both countries' domestic situations would result from a war between North Korean and South Korean. In the case of a full-scale conflict, the nation's infrastructure and economy will undoubtedly suffer major harm, causing serious economic and social turmoil. The impact to domestic due to the war between North Korean and South Korean is human casualties. A war will result in human casualties on both sides, including civilians and soldiers. This will cause immense grief and trauma for the families, those who affected. Second one is economic disruption. A war could severely disrupt the economies of both North Korean and South Korean, causing significant damage to infrastructure, trade, and commerce. Third effect is social unrest. A war will also create social unrest and tension within both North Korean and South Korean, and also could lead to political and social polarization as people take different sides on the issues surrounding the conflict. Overall, a war between North Korean and South Korea will have a far-reaching and long-lasting impact on both countries and to the wider region. An all-out conflict between North Korean and South Korean might have a variety of negative impacts, such as economy, politics, and security.
Assalamualaikum, my name is HAMKA bin TAUHID. I'm going to present about the impact of the rises issue. From the impact of the issue, the lessons learned that can we get are firstly, the importance of diplomacy and peaceful. The Korean War was a result of tensions between North and South Korea, which escalated into a full-blown war. The conflict could have been prevented if the two sides had engaged in more diplomacy and peaceful resolutions of their differences. Secondly, the devastating impact of war on civilians. The Korean War resulted in the death of millions of people, both military personnel and civilians. The war also caused significant destruction to infrastructure, leaving many people homeless and without access to basic necessities. This underscores the devastating impact of war on civilians and highlights the need to prioritize the protections of civilians in armed conflicts. And lastly, the need for international cooperation. The Korean War involved not just North and South Korea, but also several other countries, including the United States, China, and Soviet Union. The conflict showed the importance of international cooperation in resolving conflicts and maintaining peace. The war also highlighted the need for greater communications and cooperation between nations to prevent misunderstanding and prevent conflicts from escalating. Hi, for the recommendations or solutions that can be explained, where the conflict between South Korea and North Korea is a complex and long-standing issue that requires a multi-phase approach to resolve. One of the solutions is by encouraging the dialogue. Encouraging the dialogue between the two countries is a crucial step towards reducing tensions and promoting peace in the Korean Peninsula. There are some ways to encourage dialogue and reduce conflict between South Korea and North Korea, which is by diplomacy. The international community, including South Korea allies and partners, can play a significant role in encouraging dialogue between the two Koreas. Diplomatic efforts can include creating channels of communications, promoting trust-building measures, and providing incentive for both sides to engage in talks. Next, by humanitarian aid. The provisions of humanitarian aid to North Korea can be used as a tool to encourage dialogue and build trust between the two Koreas. By providing food, medicine, and other essential supplies can demonstrate South Korea goodwill and can help alleviate some of the hardship faced by the North Korean citizens.
Assalamualaikum to Madam and to all my friends. My name is IZZAH ATHIRAH binti ROSLI with Matric ID 2022494422, and here I will talk about recommendation. Secondly, the strategy that can be used on North Korea and South Korea tension is by having a good diplomatic relation. facts show that the diplomatic relation is the one of the best way to solve the conflict. Good diplomatic relation between North Korea and South Korea can have a significant impact on reducing tensions and resolving the long-standing issues between the two countries. Here's some benefit of good diplomatic relation, which is increase in terms of communication. Good diplomatic relation can lead to increaseness of communication channels between North Korea and South Korea, allowing for more regular and open dialogue. This can help to prevent misunderstandings and reduce the likelihood of conflict escalating. The 2015 Iran nuclear deal is an example helped to resolve tension between Iran and several Western countries over Iran's nuclear program. Through open dialogue and negotiation, the parties were able to reach an agreement known as Joint Comprehensive Plan of Action (JCPOA), which limited Iran's nuclear program in exchange for the lifting of economic sanctions against Iran. The third recommendation is involve natural third parties such as UN. The conflict between North Korea and South Korea is a complex issue that requires a multifaceted approach, while there is no one-size-fits-all solution. The following are some ways that the United Nations (UN) could potentially help to resolve the conflict, which is by giving a mediation and negotiation. The reason is UN could act as a mediator between North Korea and South Korea and facilitate direct negotiation between the two sides. The UN could provide a natural forum for discussions and work to bridge the gap between the two Koreas, encourage compromise and cooperation. For example, UN has been involved in the Syrian peace talk, which aim to end the civil war in Syria. The UN has facilitated negotiation between the Syrian government and opposition groups and has worked to establish a ceasefire, provide humanitarian aid.
To conclude about the war between North Korea and South Korea is a ceasefire had to be done to stop this war, but that does not promise a peace agreement between the two countries. Until now, North Korea and South Korea are still in the war phase and have not yet signed any peace agreement. The great reason is the manpower why North Korea and South Korea joined. The United States, Japan and China are among the countries that will not support the reconciliation of Korea because each country has their own interests to their own country. Until now, North Korea and South Korea have different identities and culture. Other than that, these two countries also have different political beliefs. That's all from me and my group members. Thank you and Assalamualaikum.